David sees a headline, another car accident case in New York, multi-million-dollar settlement. He was in a crash 6 months ago, serious injuries, months of treatment. He wonders, what's his case worth? And he has no idea how anyone would ever calculate that number. The question of car accident settlement value in New York is one of the most misunderstood things I deal with every day. Not because the law is complicated, it isn't really, but because people hear the big number headlines without understanding what drove them there. I'll break down exactly what makes a New York car accident case worth a lot, what drives value down, and why honesty about both matters more than you might think. Let me start with what I tell every client who asks me. There is no formula. People come in expecting a calculator. Plug in your injuries, plug in your bills, get a number out. It doesn't work that way. Every case is a combination of facts, evidence quality, injury severity, insurance coverage, and how the liability story reads to a jury. Two people with the same injury from the same type of crash can walk out with dramatically different outcomes. Here's why. What drives value up? The first thing is severity of the injury. New York has a serious injury threshold, a legal standard that separates minor soft tissue injuries from cases that can go to a full jury trial for pain and suffering. To cross the threshold, your injury needs to meet specific criteria: significant limitation of a body function or system, permanent consequential limitation of use of a body, organ, or member, or certain categories of fractures. If your case crosses that threshold, the pain and suffering component of your damages can be substantial. New York has no cap on pain and suffering in personal injury cases. None. That matters. I've had spinal injury cases in New York where the jury awarded numbers in the millions for pain and suffering alone. Not because the attorney argued loudly, because the injury was real. The impact on the person's life was documented, and New York juries take permanent injuries seriously. The second driver of value is liability clarity. When fault is obvious, the other driver ran a red, was drunk, was texting, the insurance company has less to argue. They're negotiating over value, not liability. Clean liability cases resolve faster and higher. The third is economic damages, medical bills, lost wages, future medical needs, future lost earning capacity. If your injuries required surgery, extended rehabilitation, or permanently affect your ability to work, those economic numbers are quantifiable and they drive settlements higher. An expert on your future medical needs can move a case significantly. So can a vocational expert if your ability to earn has been impacted. What drives value down? Comparative fault. If you share fault in a crash, even a little, the insurance company will find it. Speeding, failure to yield, not wearing a seatbelt. In New York, each percentage of fault reduces your recovery by that percentage. If they convince a jury that you are 20% at fault, your award drops 20%. If it's 50%, it drops by half. Defense attorneys are paid to find your fault. The cleaner your behavior was before and during the crash, the stronger your position. Gaps in treatment are another killer. I talked about this in the context of insurance tricks, and it applies just as hard to settlement values. If you had a 3-month gap in treatment, the defense argues you recovered during that gap. They have to explain it, and juries listen. If you have an ongoing injury, you need ongoing records to prove it. Pre-existing conditions. If you had a prior back injury, a prior neck issue, or a prior diagnosis that relates to your current complaint, the defense will use it. The argument is straightforward. Your injuries existed before the crash. New York law does allow recovery for aggravation of a pre-existing condition. We call it the eggshell plaintiff rule. You take the person as you find them. But it complicates the case and requires expert testimony to separate the old injury from the new injury. Have you wondered what your case is worth but never knew where to start? Ask me a general question in the comments, not your specific facts, just the type of case, and I'll tell you what factors usually matter the most for that scenario. What the big verdicts actually tell you. When you see a headline about a multi-million-dollar New York car accident verdict, a few things are almost always true. The injury was permanent and life-altering. The liability was clear. The defense fought it, meaning they refused to settle for a fair number, and the jury punished them for it. Verdicts are often higher than settlements precisely because the defense made the wrong call in refusing to settle. I've seen cases where my clients were offered a number early. We thought it was fair given the facts, and we advised them to consider it. And I've seen cases where the initial offer was so far below what the injury warranted that we took it to trial and the jury came back with a number that stunned the defense. The honest truth about value is this: nobody can promise you a number before the full medical picture is clear. Anyone who quotes you a settlement value before treatment is complete is guessing. The real evaluation happens when we know your permanent limitations, your final medical bills, and your prognosis going forward. That's when the number gets real. What I can tell you is that New York is a favorable jurisdiction for injured plaintiffs. No caps on pain and suffering. Strong case law supporting eggshell plaintiff recovery. A jury pool, especially in the city, that understands what it means to be seriously hurt by someone else's negligence. You are not starting from a bad position in New York. If you want to understand what the law says when an insurance company plays games with a claim you know is worth more than what they're offering, the next video is on insurance company tricks, the exact moves they make to drive your value down, and what to watch for. I'm Richard Jaffe of Cohen and Jaffe. If you've been hurt and have questions about what your case might be worth, our information is in the description. Subscribe and drop a comment below. What type of injury are you dealing with, generally speaking? I'll respond with what factors typically matter the most.